But
I mean, the truth hurts sometimes.
It does hurt. I feel it.
I think,
Very painful.
and also I put it in the closet.
You gotta get like
At that point,
the last week. You gotta use the face
I shower once every Saturday night. So last night, that might be the difference.
and then there's other ideas I have possibly on the floor.
Well,
and I can
you look nice.
You're so funny.
We'll see what happens. Thank you for so nice.
Well, wouldn't have come back, it wasn't for David. Almost forgot the spatula thing.
I told him he might not make it home if he forgot that.
Yeah, he did say that actually.
That's funny.
Yes.
Good morning. How are you?
But yeah.
Oh.
It was good.
What is it? What color is it? Yeah. That's mine. That's mine.
Have you been?
On the other side of the balcony, so we're good.
Yeah, I'll go.
We were in Georgia
Yeah,
for
let's
2
go.
weeks.
Right, how was your trip?
It was busy. I was on Valley and so. Hi, Mary. 5 days. Doing stuff with my parents. It wasn't big stuff. It was constantly working.
Yeah, they didn't watch it.
We went to Elevate.
To where?
To Elevate. Now I'm
I've been there.
near Hiawassee.
North Hiawassee, yes.
Yeah, I remember.
Yes, yes. Okay.
It was like,
Oh, yeah, we're gonna do this.
I know, she
We're all
She's like, well, my brother got a bunch of trees.
That's a resort area.
Yeah, very tempting. He's like, my brother will pay for my ticket.
But how did they pay?
I brought my green
So you said big canoe, that means it's bragging rights.
I didn't know that. It's so hard. He's thinking, well, we got money, I'll sell you an ice car. We're all up there and they get.
Oh, wow.
Everybody.
Oh, that's great.
Jamie said, yeah.
That's
Colder
nice.
than
Really?
That time of year.
Usually it is. Usually it's warm in the vehicle.
Oh, yes.
Oh, so we can last.
Oh, yeah, that's usually tough.
Oh, yeah.
Spring.
Sorry.
My mom's got a.
Yeah, yes.
Got a
Pardon
lot.
me?
My mom's planted a pink dog.
Like, I understand.
Yeah, we saw colors, but we had it was something Higgins, area, and those were pink glasses that we had. That was beautiful.
Those pink dogwoods are the song.
Wow.
Not all, but the ones that are really popular. Well, I think we'll get started here. Good to see everyone out. Good morning. For announcements here, Callie's been working on a tentative project. Can you tell us about Camp Utica, your friends, and what you're thinking?
I already told people about it.
You did. Why you said-
Well, you
Well, I need to actually talk to you about what you want it to look like because there's a lot of different options. So you need to talk to me about it.
Okay, so
But-
this is a Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
We don't know yet. That's what
That's part of
we're
it.
trying to figure
Okay.
that out. That's just the best time frame. That is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But we also could do Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay,
But it's just
we got options.
we gotta talk about it and figure
And
out
that
what
whole
we
week, Ron Neiman's there from Monday to Saturday doing horseback camp. Okay.
That is cool. So the $25, what does that cover?
It's per person for everything.
For 3 days,
For food?
overnight, are you kidding?
They keep it really cheap for the kids, and also if the church so this is like this is like if we want to do like a full college retreat and other churches get involved and like it's a big college retreat, it's $25 per person. And then but if we wanted to do just like our church, the church can rent out the camp. It's like a $300 cleaning deposit, which if you leave the camp clean, you get refunded.
Sure.
And it's $15 a person.
15? Are you kidding? They can't stay in business for that.
That's
And
what
that's what
I'm
I'm thinking, but I
They
can't
have
push
great
it
food,
hard.
they have free food there. I mean, you pay that for one meal, really good steak dinner, yeah. And they have great food.
But the
Okay,
other also thing is you're gonna be preaching, so you're gonna be there.
yes.
Yes.
Yes. Well, that is exciting. So let's talk about this a little bit. So it's in the middle part of August.
I figured that was like the best day because one, it's not super busy, and I think most people will still be here from school.
Yeah, so Bob Jones and other schools like it. Cedarville, probably mid-August 20th. I think I looked up this past week. So Sarah, for you, what day?
I think we're going to leave.
Yeah, so
Where are you going, Sarah? Cedarville.
yeah, so
Aw,
Cedarville, most of the
look at
schools are 18th, 19th, 20th. Mine, what do you think?
Yeah, I should be. Yeah, I should be starting that.
Yes, about the third week, everything's kicking up. Eric, are you going in the military by then, or is that plan one?
Law enforcement, but it's hoping in August to start.
All right, so maybe for you as well, maybe close, okay. I think the date works great for the camp, I know that, it works good for me personally. For us, we talked a little bit about it. It's 517 miles or so away. So it's about an 8-hour, well, you guys drive, 7-hour drive. The Audubon people, 7-hour drive. It's a gorgeous drive. You get one of two ways, I-70 or I-80. They both kind of work their way to that area of the country in Utah. It's a beautiful trip, both going and back. The camp is maybe 20 miles off of pavement up on a mountaintop, just dirt road.
Also, no cell service, guys.
No cell service, which is beautiful. Cows are usually, in the camp area or on the road, or there's constantly cattle crossing issues. There's mountain lions up there, a lot of deer, because mountain lions like deer, and they like campers.
There's some waterfalls that we're gonna hike to.
Waterfalls,
The
hikes.
shooting ranges, archery ranges.
They now have power. They have power up there. So this is really, they never had power. They had a big generator. You can hardly hear each other talk. Always grinding in the background. They got power up there, even running water most of the time. They have horses, climbing, great food, music. So it's a powerful place and great people. I think a 3-day is probably the best. We got there on like a Thursday night kind of thing, and do all Thursday night, Friday, and do a portion of Saturday would probably be ideal. And I would make it a college career for the Rocky Mountain States. I would get everyone and their brother to try to come to it. Yeah, I think you guys would like meeting new people, and they would. The Utah churches are very small in most part. They may have 3 churches like ours in the whole state of Utah with more than 100 people in the whole state. So it's very rural, very primitive. They might have 1 college kid per church, maybe. So when you have a retreat like this, they rendezvous there. This is a big event for them and for us. But I would say, for their purposes, promote it as much as they can. We'll promote it on the Front Range here. We can take vans, we can work the rides out.
That was my next question.
Yeah, we'll take our church vans. We can usually sit, 9-10 people comfortably in van, because you know how the guys pack. This is how guys pack on a retreat.
Yeah.
Okay, and you know how girls pack?
Double, maybe it's size
Like
8.
5 suitcases, 20 pair of shoes for like
2 carry-ons.
2 carry-ons.
One
Yeah,
double bag.
Exactly. This is
Maybe
how
a body
girls
bag
pack
outside.
outside.
Honey, I'm gonna prove you wrong.
You are you're just so exceptional. You are the exception. So usually about 10 people per band. So we will need to sign up. You can sign up list for this for those who are interested. The price, you can't beat that, but if you can't afford it, I'll pay for it. Truly, we would do that in a heartbeat. That's a great deal. You can't find a camp for $25.
Yeah, that's why I looked at that, I thought.
I know, I asked, I was like.
Did you remove the zero?
I know, I'm like,
There's a zero on
I was like, are you sure that's the right number, honey? You need to like double check. She's
Yeah.
like, no, that's it. I'm like, okay.
that. So for work purposes, you're gonna need Thursday off and Friday off. Thursday travel day, Saturday we'll leave. I would say if we did a morning session brunch and left after that, we get home at 10-ish. 9, 10 o'clock Saturday night. It's a long day, but I think we should do that. Some of you might want to stay out there. If you do, you make other plans.
I'm probably going up a little bit early to help out a little bit. So if I have like 4 for 4, and I'll probably come back later. So
Okay, yeah, and some others might do that as well. I would love to take our 4-wheelers out there for like 3 months. It's not practical.
Jay took his motorcycle one summer.
Yeah, he had the Kawasaki up there. I saw him there. He offered it to me to ride.
They were very nice to let him do that.
It was a very loud motorcycle. It ruined the ambiance. Quiet meadows near.
I have to say, the first time I went to Utica was probably 19 years ago or so, and I felt like I was in a dream, because we turned off the highway and we're heading up, and all of a sudden we're on this narrow road. Again, this is 20 years ago. Things have improved. 19 years. Anyway, so we go up, and then I wasn't used to open range. I'm a dairy farmer, his daughter, in Pennsylvania, where there are fences and things, and then their cows were having to stop for as they crossed the road.
Are we on the
But
right
the
road?
funniest, is this really how we get there? And then maybe we're going the wrong way, and then we come to this meadow, and there were these ladies that were dressed in medieval costumes. They had tall hats with veils flowing, and I
Just didn't fit.
and then somehow they were out a little bit away from the buildings, and then we finally get to the buildings, and they were having a fun night that night. That's what that was about. But we get in there, and there's Zachary Whitwell, who grew up in our church in Clemson. He was a little kid, but he was out front singing music. And so it was like, this is
Surreal.
It seemed surreal, but we had a great time.
So if you're free at this window, I would strongly urge you to come. We'll have such a great time together. Yeah, we can talk about the schedule, Callie, with them, but I say those dates are perfect.
Pastor, would we need to chip in for gas?
Yeah, we probably want to, that won't be about a couple dollars.
Okay.
The church may want to do that anyway, so we can work for that.
I was saying, gas prices are
I
broken.
just-
Not anymore.
I think that's something the church could do. We have a budget on that. Hello. How are you guys doing? So yeah, I think we'll work for those things, but we'll keep it really cheap. Some of you are students, some of you are working, but I think it's fantastic. Thank you, Kelly, for working on that. This Friday's our last of 3 studies at the mines. We had our second one this past Friday. We had 15 people all together. And end of the semester, that's amazing, because these are, David can tell you, these are serious students. Even though it's Friday night, there are people who are just tired and still studying and still kind of ramping up to finish the semester. We had a really good time. We had a chance to witness to a handful of students during and then afterwards for about an hour. There were several there. They were all questions and some pretty interesting discussions. So that was a great night. And then this will be our last one. We have Hezekiah Mackey coming on as a summer intern. We'll have another one as a partner to him. And we're gonna probably do a few more things in the mines for the summer. We'll talk about that with students down there and other college things will kind of dovetail what we're doing here with our classes. So do pray for Friday night. Last Friday of their semester, who knows what we'll see. I went way too long, David, on what Friday night.
No, actually, I did it earlier than last time.
Really?
He's keeping track.
No,
You need to
I
have a
was like,
signal.
no, you were like, oh, I think I ended late, and I looked at my phone, I'm like, he ended earlier this
Sorry.
I was like, what?
Okay, wow. I felt like I droned, but whatever.
No, it was good.
Maybe you could, you know.
What's that? Jake?
I
It's
said,
like-
we're the ones who take you on the drone.
I was droning.
Oh, you had.
And Callie, your hand was up,
Oh, that was just like
Oh.
a signal thingy, but I do have a funny story if you want to hear it.
please.
I just waited till like
Oh.
Please.
the girls already know, but you just like a reaction. So all the details. All the details. Okay, so
Oh, no, you won't go to sleep on this one.
4:50 on Wednesday morning.
Okay.
I was driving and I felt something move on my leg. I'm like, oh, that's just weird. That's kind of weird. And I'm like, I stop and it's 4:50 morning. I'm half asleep. And then I felt it again. And I'm like, okay, that's really weird. And I looked down and there's a snake on my leg. There's a snake on my
I
leg.
hate snakes.
Oh, shit. I screamed like a little child.
What kind of snake?
It's a garter. I saw it later. It's a garter.
Pass me
It's a
about
garter snake.
No, change
It's
that.
a-
I know, but it's gotta be
Yeah,
around.
change that detail.
So how did you get off the road?
No, that's the thing. I was on the highway. I'm like, I'm going 60 something miles an hour. I can't stop. I'm shaking and like I screamed and I'm like, okay, kept my car like perfectly. I
On
was
the
good.
road, well, that's a
I was
good
good.
thing.
And then I pulled up, cannot find it at all. I can't find
So
it.
you left.
I ripped my whole car apart.
Oh,
Cannot
no.
find it.
He's still in your car.
Yeah.
He probably has his whole family there.
But,
No.
so I'm coming back from I don't remember where I was. Like, oh, wow. Wait, what?
At the end of the day, what did you do to get back in your car?
I didn't think that was funny.
I thought it was
so-
funny.
I was at work and I'm like still thinking about it. I'm like, I'm not dealing with this. And I had like big pants on. And I'm like, okay, so I put rubber bands around the bottoms of my pants. And then when I call my pants.
That's a good measure thing, yeah.
And then I saw it again the other day. So I hope it's gone by now.
In your car?
In my car.
You saw it again.
In my car. But we
That's
worked on my
pretty big.
car this weekend and it never came out. We were pretty loud and throwing things around.
What
So
kind
I'm
of car
guessing
did
it's
you
gone.
It wouldn't
Jeez.
have come out if you were being loud. It's probably somewhere.
Shush it down. Our car smells like peppermint because that's what we served at my friend's serving.
Jamie and Troy were working on her car, and I said, it's gonna fall out from under underneath and fall on somebody's head, but never saw
I
it.
didn't have the visor.
Oh,
I don't like imagining up in the visor. What I was most scared of is like if it was like in my seat and then it
Yes.
came up between the seats and went on my back. Like,
Oh.
I couldn't do that. It's not huge. It's just a little garter snake.
You need to change the little rattlesnake 60.
Pastor, can you preach on honesty?
Yes, I can. I can also preach on a good story.
Hey, it made you laugh.
Honestly,
I don't know.
honestly, you should probably make an insurance claim and say. Just do.
I don't know, it started on fire. I don't know what happened, sir. It just blew up.
Oh, okay. Well, how do we follow all this? Ooh, wait. Are there any prayer requests or other announcements we need to make? Oh, that is so funny. Yes.
I mentioned this before, but just keep praying for the Awana kids because we're coming to a close. And I had the chance to connect with one little girl and her brother, but on Wednesday night, their mom wasn't there yet, so I was just waiting around for their mom to come pick them up. And they're like, "Hey, can we work on our verses?" So we were working together on that, and we had flipped back to catch up on some sections that we had missed, and the young lady Fabi, she hadn't done some of the sections, and so we came to the Jesus Christ one, and we were talking about that. And then I said, have you had the chance to accept him as your personal savior? She's like, no, I don't think I've done that. And so we started talking about that. We had to go because the church was closing and her mom was there. But it was just a really good conversation afterwards. She's like, hey, Mom, I want to start coming to church more.
Oh,
Like, and she's a preteen,
Yeah.
dragging her feet Sunday morning.
Sure.
Like, her mom's told me this before, but she's like, I really want to start going. And so I think that she's just this is becoming more real to her. And I'm hoping and praying that, she'll be able to make a personal decision very soon. So
yeah, excellent.
just
Good
keep
job.
praying for them in general, but for
Yeah,
her.
yes. Is this Wednesday or the following, the last one?
This coming Wednesday, we have our last lesson, and then the following Wednesday is carnival, and then the final Wednesday. will be
Okay, so we have 3 months each song. Very good. That's great for one. That's the children's program. Anything else? Yep. Thank you.
I'm going home in like 2 weeks, and my dad didn't realize that it's for a wedding. So I have all this wedding stuff planning I'm doing and a roof, and he's got a bunch of kitchens going. So I will be like going crazy for that whole week, and I will be driving overnight both times. So
Hopefully the snake doesn't come out then.
Ah!
They are nocturnal.
I heard they like weddings.
Okay, all right. His name is Dr. Kevorkian, by the way, if you ever see him.
Kelly,
If I ever see a
honestly,
snake, I'll just say hi
don't
to him.
Look right here.
I
Safety
know,
mask.
his name is Dr.
Oh, it was a snake.
Oh, how funny. Any other prayer requests?
Oh, I'm flying out for a few days tonight,
Okay.
so just safety net.
Good, Jaden. Yeah, good. Well, why don't I pray first and we'll get started. Lord, thank you for this morning, thank you for the fun we can have together, and thank you for loving us in the way you superintend in the details of our lives, both in serious ways and sometimes in humorous ways. And we just thank you for the diversity that you allow us to experience in life. We do pray for those which are traveling, for Jake tonight, later. Give them safety everywhere else. We pray, Lord, for Awanas and for every young boy and girl that attends, that these messages and Bible verses they memorize would penetrate not just the mind but the heart, and that they would personalize the message and the relationship with you, and especially as one that was just shared with on Wednesday night. So we just pray for the entire program and the families. And we thank you for this time here together. We pray for the upcoming retreat in August. That you would superintend the details of that as well. That'd be a blessing not only to our group, but for other college peers, people here in the West. Thank you for our time now. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Well, today we finish up First Chronicles. So we'll get there in a moment. From Friday night, I had extra notes. I made 25, we had 15, so I think I have 10 extra. It was on the Antichrist, so I'm just passing around. There's one, if you would like a copy, you're welcome to it. I'd rather have you take it than me just throw it out. So I have 13 pages on the doctrine of the Antichrist. So we finish here today. Currently, next Sunday, we have a combined ABF where we do that in January, May, and September. And review where we've been and where we're planning to go for the summer. So we have a very full summer, and we encourage you to attend that combined service next week, and we'll be back to our class through the summer months. So let's pick up First Chronicles, and then you're going to see in this curriculum we're working through that this summer we're going to do Second Chronicles, and then Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther and Job all in one summer. And Daniel and I were talking on Friday about Job. Every time I seem to read it, many others read it. If you're reading through Job, it seems like everything falls apart in your life. All the problems come. You're kind of studying the book while you're dealing with trials. You feel like a little mini Job sometimes. So I'm always nervous about studying Job. Maybe the Lord gives a pass on this one. But for our purposes today, we're going to try to cover chapters 25 to the end of the book. And the summer books, I have written a commentary on each one. The ING series, ING stands for Inspirational Notes for Growth, if you were curious. So this is kind of my little one for First Chronicles, and this is fairly done. This was very few notes. It was done probably in the 80s, I'm guessing. So just a mini study. So anyway, so we're going to go to chapter 25. We'll start there. And you have David the king organizing his people for worship, especially for music related things. So let's just pick up some thoughts here in First Chronicles 25. First question, it's interesting that word choices where in verse 1 it says, moreover, David and the captains of the host separated to the service of the sons of Asaph and of Heman, and in Jeduthun, who should prophesy with harps, with psalteries, with cymbals, and a number of the workmen according to their service was, and this were list. So what does it mean to prophesy with these instruments? When you think of prophesying, what normally comes to your mind? It's prophesying. Yeah, usually you think of predictions, something being projected forward, history written in advance, prophesying. Just a little pet peeve. The word prophecy, if it's the noun, it ends with CY, so it's a C. If it's the verb where someone's doing the action, then it's SY, so to prophesy, SY. And usually to prophesy means to predict something. The word prophesy can also mean something else. There's two meanings to it. So one is to foretell, and the second meaning is to forthtell. So this morning, in a sense, I will be prophesying, forthtelling, proclaiming the word. I have no inspiration to predict the future. I don't have that capacity. The prophets had that ability to foretell. I can forthtell. So it appears that these instruments are being used in a forthtelling, in a proclaiming sense, in an acoustical sense. So it's a very interesting choice of words here where they're using these instruments to proclaim a message that reflects on the nature of God. So music should reflect on God's nature. So what you know of God, the music should reinforce and reflect that message of that person. A couple things here. I am just curious what instruments you all play. So if you play an instrument, if you play it well, you've played it. Let's go around. Does anyone have any instrument? What do you play?
I play, my majority is piano, but I have experience in saxophone and percussion.
Okay, very good. Keep continuing. What instruments? And not everyone. I can play. I used to play.
Victoria has to play.
Victoria, that's we have a
What
limited amount of
doesn't
time.
she
Yeah,
play?
limited amount of time. So
Piano, violin, flute, harpish, and voice.
okay, Hannah.
I played
And
drums and
Percussion.
percussion.
Okay.
Piano.
You play piano?
I don't play any instrument.
Me either. Debbie, did you play?
I played the piano growing up.
Yeah.
violin and bass.
Violin and bass. Okay.
Guitar, ukulele, we used to play piano and drums and bass.
Okay, ukulele. That's funny because David plays the ukulele. So David, what do you play?
Piano, violin, viola, just some extent ukulele, some extent guitar.
And the ukulele, was that an island thing for you to pick up?
Yeah, that was like when we went to Hawaii, like I don't know, 2016.
Yeah, that was the rage when you had your ukulele. I said, you seem to really play it. How fun, all of you, all those ukuleles who come out of you, especially. Sarah, what do you play?
Piano, violin.
And yeah, okay.
Piano.
Piano.
I know, and I just got into it, so I'm learning.
Okay, all right, good, Ben.
I used to play piano.
We had a son who was Jim, our middle son, was playing piano, and finally the music teacher came to Elise and said, I think he can stop.
I think he can quit.
I think this is probably a good time.
Well, he had 6 years, he just dated crap.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ben, piano, okay, Eric, guitar, okay.
He plays on his mother's nerves.
Lisa Jane.
I'm teasing, I play on her nerves.
I can just sit and have fun on the piano a little bit and guitar. We used to play with basketball.
Do you want to teach you?
No.
Oh, you would want me to teach you.
And I didn't play either. So many of you, so this is something, if you have a capable, good ability on an instrument or you're a good singer, some of you are already in the orchestra and choir, and that's really exciting to see. So to those who are already in that, congratulations, commendation, keep it up. If you have a gift in music, use it. And this whole chapter is about that. In fact, you have a family here, the Von Trapp family. Verse 5.
Yeah.
All these were the sons of Heman, the king's seer, in the words of God to lift up the horn. And God gave to Heman 14 sons and 3 daughters. All these were under the hands of their father for songs in the house of the Lord, with cymbals, psalteries, and harps for the service of the house of God, according to the king's order to Asaph. So this is quite a family. Yes.
You skipped verse 4, and I was really waiting for you to read verse 4 because I can't pronounce any of those names.
I don't think he can either.
You know that there's actually a book, small, that goes over how you pronounce all of them.
Really?
I don't have those. What do you say?
I will try.
Okay.
Okay, of Heman, the sons of Heman, Bukiah, Mattaniah, Uziel, Shebuel, and Jeremoth, Hananiah, Eliatham, that's a hard G, Gidai. Oh, I didn't miss the.
Sounds like chocolate
Gedalti.
from San Francisco.
Yeah, Gedalti. Sounds like chocolate.
Okay.
And Romaim T-E-Z, it's Ezer, Josh Bekisha, Malachi, Hother, and Nehaziah. I have all the little markings.
Honestly, these should be like a new baby
I don't think
Yes,
so.
yes.
Hey, I've got one question. On that idea where, in verse 1 where it says, prophesy with harps and psalteries, and then in that verse that you just read, who prophesied with a harp to give thanks. So could it be that these instruments were accompanied with words?
Well, it looks like the actual action is with the instrument. They prophesy, they are doing something with the harp, they're doing something with this instrument. And it does raise the question, when Saul was amongst the prophets and prophesied, what was he doing? Was he foretelling the future, or was he foretelling, was he praising? Oh, look, Daniel, was he singing maybe? So you're going to see with prophesying, it can be singing, it can be foretelling, and proclaiming something with your voice or an instrument. So all of the above could be topics to look at. So anyway, you have a family here that all sang. So how many of you had a family where you were all very musical? I know we have the Richards family where you live on Richards. Is there any other family? Your family?
My parents know, but my grandpa on my dad's side,
Okay.
he has a good talent for singing, and then on the occasion when we're together, we have an instrument. I tend to wander, depends.
Very good. Very good. Anyone else with a family with music together?
Most everybody on my mom's side can sing or play some sort of instrument, and everybody on my dad's side just plays instruments.
Okay. I saw your dad this week.
You did?
I did.
At the thing?
At Discount Tire.
Oh.
I have a flat car. It's working. Rudy was there.
Well, I'll apologize in advance.
No, we had a great time.
Okay, good.
Great time. He stood up and started preaching in the middle of the floor.
Oh, my goodness.
It was a blessing.
You did not.
No, he didn't. It was great seeing him. We had a really nice time. Okay, so I think of the sound of music. Have you ever been to Austria? So, what's the city? What's the famous city there?
Vienna.
Vienna. So
Salzburg.
Salzburg and then Vienna. So that you've not been there yet?
No.
Okay. Has anyone been to Salzburg, Vienna?
I've been to Vienna.
You've been to Vienna?
Yeah, but only like for 4 hours.
Because that's like one of the cultural capitals of the world. A lot of music there. A lot of okay. So you have a family here that they use their abilities, and you have a father that apparently saw the wisdom of teaching his their kids music, and including them, involving them at an early age, and worshiping the Lord. Hello there, Eddie. How have you? You start with me.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
On the left.
Let's pick the music. Hi. Okay, so we're in 1 Chronicles 25. So what we have here is a really neat musical chapter. Again, verse 7, he instructed them in songs of the Lord, even all that were cunning. And then it goes through this list of singers. but teaching songs, teaching music. I did not grow up with this background. We tried to do a little bit more with it with our own kids, but music is so powerful, and to teach the Word of God with music. And the hymn book of the Bible is the Psalms. So you have 150 songs, and that's what the Jewish people use as a core to their worship services were those songs. And so the New Testament talks about singing psalms, and then spiritual songs and hymns, the whole gamut of music. But this is a beautiful, beautiful chapter here. And I'm thinking about a couple things, this music ministry. Again, if you have a gift to sing or have an instrument you can play, do pray about using it in our orchestra or the choir. I would love to see us this summer put together an ensemble. What are you laughing at, Eric? You're in the choir.
I say Eric should be leading.
Eric's the man. Eric's the man. No, you've got a beautiful voice.
We have done before.
I know we've done it before, but I think we have a unique group here that I think we could really put together a joyful sound. I really think that.
Maybe a couple of examples.
Yes, thank you. Who would be interested in a music ensemble, which might be both in singing and instruments? And we would take this on the road. We would do it here. If we have a college career retreat, I think we should be part, not all of it, but part of the music program, really. We bring some music to it. So who would be interested? Don't be shy. That's good. 1, 2.
Come on.
All right, let me ask the question. How many things that Eric should be part of this? Pretty simple. You have no choice in the matter.
Well, majority.
Yeah. Mrs. Price, you've got to be a part of this.
I would
You've
say,
got a beautiful voice.
Sings more often than me.
you should both sing.
Yeah, there you go. We're back in the choir. This whole marriage stuff's way overrated.
I would just like to say to Eric that God did say make a joyful noise, not a pretty noise. So.
There you go. There you go. I think we have a lot of talent in this group. We're also going to get some of our college students back for the summer. We may have another 8, 10, 12 people with us. And I think we have an awesome ensemble for serving the Lord here. And then I'd love to see us do it at the camp. There's a couple of other places we could do it. And just be hopefully a blessing. So who's going to take notes of all those hands? Is that the whole group? For Eric. So Eric's on.
Minus.
I
No,
can't
you don't even have a choice. Eric has no choice. We believe in both coalition except for Eric. So how many would like to do an instrument in that, or combination of singing and instruments?
I can do that.
Okay, if you can, okay. And then how many vocalists here? I love it. Okay, I think it's a good start. We'll come back to this. We'll come back to this. Now, one last special music that I think is really neat, really neat. So when you study music and these instruments, the group that's playing here, doing the worship thing for the Old Testament people, the musicians had to be a part of one of the 12 tribes, and it was the tribe of Levi, the Levites. So when it came to worship, those who were serving, they were only Levites. They were only Levites. So if you were from the tribe of Judah or Benjamin or Simeon or one of the other 11 tribes, you would still worship, but the music was carried by the Levites. Okay, they were the ones playing the harps. They were the ones doing the antiphonal singing. They were the ones doing the thing. Yeah.
Even today, do the Levites still need worship?
Yes, yes,
So they still respect it.
yes. It's in a limited sense, yes. And the Jews still are very proud of their tribal descendants, how they connect to the past.
That is true, but not all of them follow the law.
No, you've got different expressions of unbelief. With our Jewish friends, where some are more committed than others to Old Testament practices. But if you go into Israel, you'll still see a priestly group. And there's a name today. If you see a COHN, you see that name come on? It's one English name, and that is a Jewish name, and it's goes back to the Levites. So we have a lawyer friend who brought him out. Whatever or Kohen as well. You might hear Kohen. So these are some current names that they are Levites. So what's neat is they were the only ones who were authorized in the temple. You all could sing outside in your home and in your wherever, but when it came to temple worship, it was like Levites. So when you go to the book of Revelation, we won't turn to it, but there's several places where it describes heaven, and part of heaven, our experience there will be worship. And it won't be every day, it won't be every hour, it won't be every minute where there's a worship service, but there will be corporate worship. And we see the use of harps and other instruments. And what's neat is it's not just Levites using them. So what happened? So Old Testament worship just Levites, and now you come to the book of Revelation and heaven describing Jew and Gentiles, and we're seeing Gentiles with harps. We're seeing, we're talking about Christians who are doing music in heaven. What's the message? What happened? There's some theological here.
Galatians 3, I think, where we're all equal, neither Jew nor Gentile, male or female, at the foot of the cross.
So our position in Christ, it's not a gender thing, it's not a tribal thing, it's not an ethnic thing, okay? Another point. So when we get saved, we talk about the priesthood of the believer, right? What does that mean? That means that we as Christians, I don't have to go to a priest, to another man, and say, "Look, Father, forgive me," or ask God to forgive me. I kicked my dog in the backyard, whatever. Forgive me for, I don't have to confess to a priest. That's not a biblical process. But as a priest, as a child of God, I now have direct access to God through the Son. I can talk like a priest. I am one. So in a sense, we are all priests. We're all Levites in that sense. So we're seeing in heaven that the corporate worship now goes beyond just one unit of God's people to all people. So it's a neat expansion of thought. All right, so chapter 25. If you have any questions, please stop me. Chapter 26, let's go there for just a moment. So now we have the divisions in this chapter: the gatekeepers, the treasurers, other officials, and we have just a lot of stuff going on in this chapter. Again, David's organizing the worship, he's organizing the administration, he's organizing the safety teams. He's putting together order and design for Jerusalem and for corporate worship. And just a couple verses here to highlight. Chapter 26, verse 12, for instance, you have something being described here. Among these were the divisions of the porters, even among the chief men having wards one against another to minister in the house of the Lord. So you get different divisions, different job descriptions. And if you're Levites and you're a priest, you lived there. Many of you lived at the temple. You have adjoining places. And sometimes they would rotate these divisions through where you would live temporarily at the temple, and then you'd be cycled back out to your Levitical city where you would live with your family and so on. So some neat things going on here. But you do have, I like verse 14, and Lot eastward fell to Shelemiah, then for Zechariah's son, a wise counselor. And this summer, we're likely, if the Lord continues to lead, we're going to do some unique training, discipleship training on helping people overcome sin, especially addictions. So we're really praying about starting a Freedom at Last ministry, which is for people who are, whether it's on drugs, alcohol, whatever. We're going to be doing some of that training using some of Jim Berg's materials. He was just with us for our recent conference. And so, all of us should be disciple makers, and part of disciple making is counseling. And counseling can be really tricky. At your stage of life, you're going to be thrown into very difficult counseling situations, usually of your peers. Okay, and that's just what it's just a reality. You have a friend who's going to come to you and they're going to pour their heart out and they're really asking for help. But maybe simply, would you understand me and love me? Maybe they're not looking for information, direction. Sometimes they want the comfort and aid me, direct me. So what are the pros and cons of you giving counsel to your peers? What are some of the pitfalls? And what are some things we need to grow in? What would you say? At least, we're to be all wise. Wisdom is applying truth to a current situation. So, yes, Ben.
I'd say sometimes we're just as lost as they are, as we're experiencing that same situation the first time as they're experiencing it.
It's the blind leading the blind sometimes. Where we're not much further ahead than the other person in that problem. If not, sometimes we're behind and we're going through the same month. Yeah. So what's that? If we sense that, boy, I'm not a real lot of help because I'm having the same struggle or going through the same issue. What is the right counsel at that point? What do you say then?
Pray about it.
Oh, I can pray for you. We can pray about it. That's always the right thing to do. We can pray about it. What else? Yeah, and older, you know this, older doesn't mean wiser. You would like to think all the older people are wiser in the church. It's not true. It's not true. I remember when I was just say it was your age. I went to this good Bible church, and there was this guy, I thought he was like Moses. And over the next couple of years, I realized he was more like, Judas, So yeah. So there's some people who are older, and you would think they'd be wiser, but you still have people in the young and heart department that use milk bottles. They use milk bottles. It's just in the nature of it. So older meaning what? Yeah, more mature. All right. So that's a good deferral. Say, look, I'm not maybe the best help on this one. I have some similar issues, or I'm up and down the road far enough. But this would be something to talk to your godly parents. If your parents are godly, maybe talk to the pastor. Maybe there's a couple people that in the church that been down the road a little bit, can maybe shape some of that counsel. Because you get caught, I'm telling you, get caught in some really tricky stuff. Really tricky stuff. That's true. Yeah, how else would you handle it? Any other advice?
As you get into a community of believers, you get to know who has been through what, through conversation, through interaction.
Yes.
In a situation where you're talking to someone, you're like, to be honest with you, I have absolutely no experience in this area, but I know
So and so
does. I know they've been down that road, and I know they've taken a really godly view on their experience through it, and direct them to that individual.
That's huge advice. Huge.
Yeah, I like that. What you're saying, I think is so good.
Yeah.
I was, okay, my age is showing, I had 3 children. Well, when I had those children, it was a terrible time. They all ended up, the first one.
The kids are terrible?
No.
Having kids are terrible?
Excuse me, emergency C-section, what I'm getting to. And so all 3 of them were cesarean sections, and the anesthesiologist, when he comes in, he told me, oh, this is what we're gonna do, and this could happen, all these things, but they never happen. Well, they all happen. Okay, and so later when younger women came to me and they're expecting children and I'm wanting to comfort their hearts, it was like, I don't think I want to talk. So I knew a lady in our church, her view was, oh, I just love having children. And so she loves the Lord. She, had twins. She had this wonderful experience.
Go talk to her.
So that's exactly what I did. I said, you really need to talk to her about having children. Well, so that was kind of how it. And so I did that throughout the years there because it was like, I don't want to scare you.
But Daniel said, she's illustrating, and that's where you get to know people in your group and people in your church. And when something surfaces, you say, you know what, I think so-and-so might be a good person to talk to. Chad Miller, is a retired businessman. Boy, he'd be a great one to talk to on financial decisions. What do you think, Chad, about this? I'm weighing these things out. And whatever the topic is, to look for someone that might have some experience there that can kind of shine some light on the situation. Okay, so you have a wise counselor here being described. This somebody we're going to have some pretty intense training on how to help people with some unique problems. Okay, chapter 27. David has learned the hard way, verse 23, not to do that census thing again. Where it says, but David took not the number of them or the census, the military census, from 20 years old and older. We went through that terrible pride he had earlier in numbering his men and trying to kind of glorify himself in that problem. You have a guy introduced in verse 33 who's a counselor too. And this is where it gets tricky. We just talked about a very wise counselor. And now we have verse 33, and Ahithophel was the king's counselor. So what do we know about Ahithophel? Go ahead, Slavic, go ahead. You have maybe another question.
Well, I know nothing about Ahithophel, unfortunately, but I didn't get to get touched by some. But the thing is, my question is, why does if the king needs a counselor, then shouldn't the counselor be the king?
Well, good question. You know, the Bible says there's safety in a multitude of counselors. So a good king realizes that he's not all knowing. He have to be briefed on every topic about every country and every subject and every issue. So a good king will find experts in those areas where he is not. And he's going to say, okay, what do you think in regards to this, whatever topic? So that wisdom surrounds yourself with people that make up for your deficiencies. You know, I've got a lot of deficiencies. So when I'm hiring staff members, I'm not looking for a clone in redundancy. I'm looking for someone to bring something unique to the table in their areas of expertise. And kings are always they should be looking for people. Okay, I'm weak on this international issue, so I'm going to get counselors. Yeah. And one of the king's counselors is Ahithophel. What do we know about him? What's his early track record?
Wait, I think there's somebody else.
No, you're on target.
Oh, and he tried to offer counsel to him, but he didn't listen.
Yeah, you're building the narrative of Ahithophel. So first, Ahithophel's David's counselor. The psalmist David writes a psalm about him, and he calls him his familiar friend. So this is maybe his closest friend that he can rely on, trust in, consult in, and he thinks Ahithophel has his back. And you're going to find this in life that sometimes the people you think are on your side may not be. And when that happens, when it implodes, where you say, wow, I thought that person was my friend. I thought that person had my back. I thought that person, whoa, you realize they didn't. They didn't. At that point, that's a hard one to swallow if you feel like you've been betrayed. Okay? And that's Judas. Judas betrays Jesus. Okay. Ahithophel is the Old Testament example. So Ahithophel yields to David's son Absalom and swings his loyalty to a rebel, to a guy stealing the hearts of the people, a usurper. And you would have never seen that earlier. There wasn't any cracks, but there might be one reason that Ahithophel switches loyalties. What's one little bio detail about Ahithophel? Who is he related to?
He's related to Bathsheba, wasn't he?
Yeah, there's an interesting connection with
granddaughter, or something like that.
So what's the connection? Is this Sunday morning? You know everything.
Not often.
But there is a family connection. So how did David treat Bathsheba and her family? Would there be any possible reason that Ahithophel might not be pleased with David's treatment? What did David do?
He killed Bathsheba's husband.
Yeah, that's not usually a good idea. So here David takes out Uriah. Well, Uriah would have been at the dinner table of Ahithophel family gatherings. He's no longer, that seat's empty. And so who knows how this sits in the crawl of Ahithophel. So in crunch time, Ahithophel does a Benedict Arnold. So what did Benedict Arnold do? Benedict was a fabulous fighter for the Continental Army, for the Americans, tremendous. And then what happens? He
betrayed George Washington.
Betrays George Washington, and what does he take control of? What place in America? On the Hudson River.
Was it West Point?
West Point. So Benedict Arnold takes over West Point, receives them, and turns it over to a British. If you own West Point, you own the Hudson River. Okay, and that just gives you the upper hand in any battle going into New York. So Benedict Arnold, he felt like he was not appreciated. He wasn't given the glory he thought he should be given. he turned, okay. So Ahithophel turns. So what do you do when you have an Ahithophel? It breaks your heart. And what you don't want to do is get bitter over it. You have to give that over to God. Say, God, you're the ultimate judge. I'm going to commit this situation, this person to you, because you're the one who judges it. You judge righteously. And I'm going to not let my heart get bitter. Because when you're betrayed, some of the biggest betrayals is if you're married. What would be a betrayal in marriage?
Cheating.
Yeah. Can you imagine you give yourself to a man as a woman here, or a woman, a man gives himself to a woman here, and you've made these vows before God, you have this love for a person, and all of a sudden you find out that person is cheating behind you, is betraying that trust. And for some, it might be the guy deeply into pornography where the wife finds, all the junk. And say, really? I feel so betrayed. I feel so cheapened by your behavior, your practices, a betrayal on that level. But go beyond that, to see a man have an adulterous affair, what a betrayal. Devastating. Or even worse, what about that guy going and committing homosexual acts with another man? So you take the betrayals from pornography to a woman adulterous situation to same sex. And it just destroys you. When you're betrayed. And you'll see in life people will betray you. And you'll say, I thought they were a friend. This is the story here. Here's the story.
I have two things about
Sure.
Ahithophel that
Yep.
always stand out to me. Number one, David says about him, when Ahithophel spoke, this was the type of counselor he was. It was like the oracles of God. It was like when he said something, it was so wise and so good that it was as if God said it. But then when he followed Absalom, David didn't tell his people, we need to, strengthen our army or whatever. He said to Hushai, his friend, he said, I need someone to defeat the advice of Ahithophel. Because if you read about that, the advice he gave, David would have been defeated. But Hushai, his friend, defeated his advice. And so the battle, as you read that story, really fell right on the shoulders of Hushai and how he defeated
It was so
Ahithophel's
clever.
advice.
And once Ahithophel realized this counsel wasn't to be taken, what did Ahithophel do? He put his house in order and killed himself. Okay, so very interesting. In many ways, he prefigures the Judas of the New Testament of Jesus. Okay, chapter 20. Thank you. Yeah, that was good. Chapter 20. David's now going to make the transition between his leadership and his son Solomon. So he assembles, verse 1, leadership together there, assembled all the princes. Verse 2, then David the king stood up upon his feet, and he speaks to the people here, my brethren, my people, as for me. I had a mind to build a temple. God said no to it. My son's going to be the one who's going to build it, follow his leadership. And then he challenges his son. Verse 6, he said unto me, Solomon, thy son, he shall build my house. So Solomon now is being challenged by God and by his father to now build that thing. So very clear communication being given between David and the people, David and Solomon. It's going to help for a really reasonably smooth transition between one king to the next. That's not often seen in the Old Testament era. So here is a father. What are some things this father did to make his son successful? Because you're going to be likely future parents. What do you do? Some parents do not build life for your success. They in fact set you up for defeat, which is unfortunate. But what should we do as parents to set our kids up for a successful future? David's going to do this with Solomon. So what are some of the key principles?
I think he tries to set up a supportive framework, not only to build the temple, like he had all the materials ready, but he had people that were, okay, we're going to give our loyalty to Solomon. We're going to give him counsel. So he's trying to set him up for success in the best way possible by giving him all the best resources and support that he might need.
Yeah, David, exactly. He had a lot of resources. And some parents don't share them with their kids. Some kids don't even know what their parents have. Parents are selfish. They don't, lay out those resources for the next generation. Here's David saying, everything I have, I'm going to give it to my sons, my family, especially Solomon. And he's laying that out so he can build with those materials. Huge. What else can you do? Well, what is a failure of parents? What can be a failure? Obviously, the opposite of these points. Yeah,
I
Ben.
was just saying, one good thing he probably did, I don't know if it's stated in
Yeah.
scripture, but he wouldn't have just given him this project with zero training. He's probably educating him his whole growing up life. As a king's son, he's probably getting the best schooling and
Yes, yeah, he was.
years of preparation.
Yes. So he's doing all he can to equip him, to train him. And when our kids went off to college, we partnered with them. They didn't pay for all their education. We did 50-50. That's basically how it worked out. So we're gonna partner with you. We'll do what we can. And then you need to do part, you need to do some co-ownership in this. Because the next step after that, we thought they should be on their own. So after that training and equipping to do something, you're not fully on your own. We're still gonna do things for you. When Israel came into the land, God had prepared for Israel vineyards and houses, and put them in position to step into some things. So we took that principle and we were in a position to give each of our kids money to help in a down payment of a house. And we just wanted to help get them started. They had that money to work with it. That's what they chose to do with it. And so there was just incremental steps we were trying to do as parents, not that we're the paradigm example, virtue on this, but we tried to prepare them for a soft landing and success. And I think it's really important as future Christian parents. What can I do to prepare our kids for the future? Whether they be strong spiritually, they know what their gifts are, they know what their aptitudes are, their direction that you help hone and shape. But eventually, you're stepping out of that. So continue.
I guess maybe not on like their initial set off, but just something that I've seen like with my grandparents and stuff. Like if they have a lot of debt or issues that are going on and they pass away, like it gets passed on to the child, and it's a big burden. And I mean, usually they're not a child anymore; they're an adult. But like that can also harm your children. The fact that your burdens fall on them.
I tell you, to get out of college with a huge debt, or in this case, incur someone else's debt, it's hard enough in life. So some of these colleges we were talking about Denver with Jaden, that's $50,000 a year. Can you imagine $200,000? Who has? I don't have that today. $200,000 for an education. So, but we have a number of doctors in our church. Mara works for 2 doctors. Do you know what the medical training to be a doctor for 8 years of college and medical training? You could come out as a doctor, you're practicing your medicine, but you might have $250,000 or more debt.
Jake just texted me yesterday. He said they were talking in class. He had class on Saturday, which is normal.
Yeah.
But he said most of the kids there were $250 to $350 debt by the time they left.
$250?
No.
Yes.
Can you imagine 250 starting your career?
That far with
So
another
when we
house
got
payment.
married, we started with $1 and 1 penny in our savings account. Okay, that's what we started. We had $20,000 of school debt, with $1, 1 penny. When we got married, we weren't sure if we had enough money to go on a honeymoon. Okay, so what did we do? We opened up envelopes, and there was enough money to drive my beat-up pickup truck with my camper, Jezebel, a 66 Dodge truck, which is going to break down on the honeymoon. She's going to have a real quick list on her horrible husband. Hear that thing up there? I think that's a truck talking to me.
Jezebel?
I think it is. Because my truck had problems on the first day of our honeymoon, and she came out to tell me what to do and how to fix it. And I said, please get back in the truck. I will handle this. It was a real story.
I did.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Oh, did you handle it?
It's a little rough water. You got to realize we are first generation Christians. We have learned, from looking at the Bible, looking at good couples, but we've had to go through a lot of just growing pains. Okay. But when we started our marriage, it was rough. We were earning, that first year combined, we earned $3,333.
We did summer mission.
We did summer missionary. We lived in a cottage with no heat, no bathroom.
No bathroom.
Well, there was bath.
There was
I mean,
we
just a
painted it puke green. We found a bucket of paint.
I thought,
We could
I
afford
thought,
a
oh,
bucket
this will make it look nice.
Moss.
We
Right.
painted
Oh,
it.
I just meant the exposed
My
feet,
mother
so
came to
it's not
see
gonna
us,
stood out.
she came in for the tour, it took all 10 seconds.
I was excited to share with it.
We had 2 single beds tied together with baling twine. Tied together with baling twine.
Well, Ben and Becca kind of did the same thing, right?
Well,
After they
yeah,
got married.
Almost
Yeah.
identical. almost identical. My mom came in, what'd she do? She had a meltdown.
Yeah, well, I was showing her around. I knew this was for the summer. We'd have an apartment when we went to, to South Carolina. And so it was just fun for me. It was like, this is great. But I said, oh yeah, here it took probably 30 seconds to show her around. It's gonna take long. But she looked at me and I was so happy, but it made her start to cry. And I think it looked pitiful to her, but we had fun. But
Well,
it was
we were-
on a
we were
campground.
living on love, though. We didn't need anything. We were living on love. Did you miss your
Not
car?
mine or anybody's.
That's that snake.
Oh, no, the snake.
It's not my car.
So,
Is it?
No, it's not. It's a van out there. It's a white van.
Okay.
I don't think.
That could be like 6
So-
different families.
So the point I'm trying to make here, God's trying to make it final is, as parents, you want to set your kids up to succeed relationally with others. You want to set your kids up financially best you can. You want to help partner into that next phase where they're reasonably independent in doing life. You want to do that. Have them have a soft landing. That's in an ideal biblical world, you want that. It doesn't always work.